Good morning, everyone. And now it's week 7. My name is Ying Mei Hua. We'll keep discussion Wenbin concept. And this week we'll discuss something new. But before we introduce the new series, new information, let's quickly review the week 6 informations about summer heat warmth. If you have any questions, any concern, would like to clarify some concept about summer heat warmth, now is very good opportunity. Let's have a go. First slide, number 1, based on the TCM concept, the summer heat is warmer than spring heat pathogen. So here talking about the pathogen. Summer heat pathogen is warmer than spring heat pathogen. Is that yes or no? So there's answer have a false, answer have a choose, and how we should understand is this one. Okay, because they usually don't have much a book talking about the pathogen itself, and same for the PPT we learned. So based on the theories about the season, we can see season, and summer is that warmer than the spring or colder. It's warmer than spring, yes. So summer is warmer than spring. So basically, summer is related to fire elements. So from that point of view, summer heat should be much more warmer than spring heat pathogen. From clinical manifestations, spring heat warms and basically presented initially in chi levels disorder and then go to the nutritive level straight away. But for the summer heat warms can go to the chi level and go to blood levels. So from the easy bleeding conditions in the summer heat warms and compared with the levels they related, it is correct statement. Any disagreement or any different way to see this one? And spring more water element, but the spring heat is more incubated pathogens. Yes, Olivia?
Exactly what I thought we talked about this last week. You said that the spring heat, because it has an incubating pathogen, when it comes out, it has more forceful and more pronounced symptoms.
Yes, you are correct. That's why they do not have a Wee level disorder, or not very commonly have Wee level disorder to be noticed by others, but they do not have a more clearly blood level disorder compared with summer heat warms. So that means summer heat warms can passing through the nutritive level from chi level go to the blood level straight away, much more deeper, more severe clinical manifestations. Maybe it's not a very practical comparison in a way. In the theoretical level, we can compare. In the practical level, it depends on clinical manifestations. That's why in most of the books, they do not compare this kind of two pathogens. It's very hard to compare it without sufficient clinical symptoms and signs. You are correct. But based on the theories we learned about summer corresponds to fire element, spring corresponds to the wood, and so we know and fire is much more heat in nature compared with wood. And here I only can give you evidences because it can affect the blood level straight away from chi level passing through the nutritive in summer heat warms. But for the spring heat warms, it's from the chi level go to nutritive level. It's more common. Thank you. It's good we can discuss some issues. It's great for your support. Thank you very much, Olivia. Now, number 2, the summer heat warms has more severe heat signs than spring warms. If first one is correct, second one could be correct. But if your argument is if the summer damp heat warms, not necessary. So it has to be summer heat warms because summer damp heat warms, they have early stage of Wee level disorder. So here you need to think it carefully. Is the summer heat warms or summer damp heat warms? So do be careful. If the summer heat warms, this statement is correct. If the summer damp heat warms, this is not necessary because the spring warms does not have Wee level disorder. Does that make sense? The way I try to construct this kind of question make us to think not trying to record it's right and wrong, and without have the ability, the chance gap to think it through. It's better think it through, because maybe in your future practice you'll find something is not really right, and you can make much better, understanding for some concept, some statement, or some issues we learn in the class. Thank you. Number 3, the spring warmth has noticeable yin or body fluid damage than the summer heat warms. Yes or no? Summer heat will cause straight away yin and qi damage, and spring warmth causing yin injury and a nutritive yin level disorder. So this is not correct, because if you believe number 1 is correct, this is not correct, because fire can cause a more severe yin injury than incubated heat. Fire is much more exuberant. Example about ultralight can causing burn of the skin so quickly than the general heat we're talking about. So not long after, when you stay on a very, very hot weather in summer, you can get burn skin much more quicker than other forms of the heat. So that's a fire correspond with the summer or sun ray. So this can be tricky, but I don't think this kind of question will present for the exam, just for revisions. So you don't worry too much. So here can leave you some space to think it through in your future study and learning. Let's have a look, second slide. Number 4, if the brain activities in learning involve thinking, reflections, and storage, the reflections will be the fast or experience-related actions. So very quick. Now, the first half statement is from the specialist. Reflection tells you something. When you're driving the car, do you need thinking about which angles you're going to press for the brake, which angle to press for gear, to power when you're driving? You only do that in learn before you get when you are in learning plate, yes? But once you get a P, you get 4 license, do you need to think about it when you're driving? Or everything's come from what? Experience, yes? Everything will respond as kind of brain reactions, reflections. So this is a very fast one. So this is absolutely correct one. So that's why I encourage everybody. Storage is memory in learning, which is very hard one, very boring one. We only can really let them stay in the brain. We really understand it and dissect all the information into smaller pieces, make senses, and then they make big, huge, beautiful, jigsaw puzzle. And thinking takes a long time, thinking. So if you only go through thinking in the learning, it's good in a way, but it takes a bit long time. So you need we could utilize previous life experience restored in the brain and then reflect to the current learning. That's a reflections. So you also common sense, that's much more quicker. And thinking takes a while. That's why traditional training for everything as a specialist takes many, many years. Now we do the productive line training in all the academic world. So that's why we don't have much of time to thinking until you go through the master's, PhDs, or personal interest in learning. We go to more deep level thinking or prepare the assignment. So that means the multiple choice exercise is not proper way for us thinking, isn't it? Now, any question for this one, for number 4? Doesn't make sense. Like when you go home, you finish the work, you go home. You even don't need to think. You find the key, open the door, change your shoes, or maybe take off your clothes, doing something else, and spontaneously, without thinking it through. Maybe in some stage you forgot one step or another step, but generally you don't need thinking about it. should I, using left hand, right hand, find a key from left side of the pocket or right side pocket or in my bag? You don't think, you just reflect it, doing that like, because you had the cellular memories already restored in the brain. You just do that without thinking. Same, when we're able to walking, do we thinking about walking step the right foot with left hands together, or we should walking with right hand and right foot forward and walking very funnily like a robot? So we don't need even thinking, and we reflect it. All the reflections is due to we have some cellular memories and from previous learning and thinking. And this kind of knowledge or these kind of basic reactions restored in the brain. Number 5. The summer relates to the fire element in TCM. Therefore, summer season associated disorders are usually presented with exuberant heat. Okay, because they did not say absolute, so only usually this is correct one. So don't make everything absolutely. Even what I'm talking in the sessions, not everything I'm talking is correct. So you should be able, we all, as adult, have a critical thinking and to able to clarify that through your future practice as well. Now, number 6, in summer, yang qi has the strongest presentations in the body, with pores of the skins are inclined to opening. So the spleen lacks of proper protection from dampness invasion. In summer, the yang qi has the strongest presentation in the body. We know that one because the summer is go to peak level of the heat. Same for the yang qis all go to peak level in the surface of bodies because they all go to the surface, and the pore of the skin has been what? Inclined opening. So that's why, like, we open the window, open the door in a very hot weather, let air circulate it, release heat accumulated inside the bodies. Yes, but due to all the yang qi go to surface of body, what's happening for internally? Internally, they become what? Lack of support. That's why in the summer, due to this kind of yang qi presenting surface, internal spleen does not have enough caring, especially if we don't have a strong spleen qi as a kind of precursor. And with intaking a lot of cold food, cold drink, so at the summer, we are much more easier to have dampness invasion in the middle jiao. So yang qi is strongly mainly represented in the surface of bodies. So here should be in the surface of body, in the surface of the body. And that's why I have the second part with the pore of the skin are inclined opening. So when the present surface, the skins of the pore will be opening, and then inside of organs, and usually lack of strong support. And very easy to be affected with any kind of cold drinks and the dampness food if you have precursor of weak spleen qi. But if you have strong, like a diamond, no matter winter, no matter summers, and no matter what food you eat, you always enjoy it. No trouble can bother you. But generally, based on the qi distribution in summer, surface of body, so frontier of the body is much very well looked after by the yang qi. So that's why the pores of the skin able to be open. No enemy can come in because they have sufficient yang qi protected. But inside, lack of strong support, and then they are very easy to be suffered by improper diet. One of my friends just rang me yesterday, not rang me, sent a message to tell me, I feel so tired, exhausted recently, and they are experiencing summer now in other side of the world. And she finds she's so tired, so heavy of the body, and not able to coping with this kind of, the daily life as she should be. So what she can do, also she's sweating and enormously. So I recommend maybe taking some 玉屏风散, eating some porridge with barley and 山药 as a kind of dietary therapy. And then she told me, oh, I ate too much watermelon yesterday. I said, no more raw and cold food. She indulged in too much watermelon, which really generated lots of damp on her tongue. She already have, over 50s, already have weakened spleen qi. by indulging too much of watermelon. That watermelon also has to keep in the refrigerator before consuming. And that's why in the summer, for my friends, same for everybody else, if you don't have a strong spleen qi, do not overindulge in anything which is much more cooler than the body's tolerance, which can affect the spleen qi straight away. So that means this is incorrect. In the summer, moxibustion is very good therapy because moxibustions for back shu points, for the front mu points, is very good to consolidate internal yang qi. So that's why Chinese call that in the hot season, we need to tonify internal yang qi, apply the moxibustions. In the cold season, you're eating a lot of watery dishes like casseroles, soups, to supply the yin at the same time protect the yang. So Chinese dietary therapy does practice based on the season. Thank you, Wenli. Thank you, Ray. Now, here comes more. Number 7, in summer, the damp passage affects the body more difficult than spring and winter. So after we explain the question 6, this should be very easy, comes to the conclusion. Is it difficult or more easier? It is more difficult or more easier in summer. The dampness is much more easier to affect the spleen in summer. Because of what? All the yang qi in the surface, and the weather is so hot, so what we intended to eat, cold drinks and cold food, yes, cold beers. So much more easier, not difficult to affect middle jiao earth. That means in summer, dampness passage is much more easier to affect the body than the spring and winter. So which is, this overall is incorrect. You did not understanding the question. The question is, in summer, the damp passage affects the body is more difficult than in spring, which is incorrect. The correct statement is, in summer, the damp passages affect the bodies more easier than in spring and winter. Because in the winter, all the pore of the skins has been closed. All the yang qi has been restored internally. And in the spring and the heat, the yang qi has not come out exuberant yet. They just start sprouting out, dispersing. Another things, you did not understand the questions. The question is, in the summer season, does the damp passages easier affect the body or difficult affect body compared with the spring and winter season? Yeah, easier. Good. Thank you. Okay, number 8. I try to make it a negative answer, so that's why it's very difficult in some way to understand for that part. Even when I recheck the questions and make myself confused, this is not correct. How should I address more difficult? It should be much more easier. You need to make some negative questions. Otherwise, everything's correct. We don't need to think yet. Number 8, the damp cold attacks the body more in cold season, while damp heat affects the bodies often in hot season. This is true because in the cold season, when we learn Shanghai Lun, most of passages from external attack, no matter from season, from food, are damp cold, more common in the cold season. And damp heat is much more often like summer damp heat and in warmer season. So this is a general term, which is correct. Number 9, high fever and bleeding are the common symptoms and signs in the summer heat warms. Or should say could be, isn't it? Could be the common. It'll be better because the summer heat is much more easier to lead in high temperature. We agree for that one, and also easy effect for the blood disorder in blood level. So from that sense, it's common. much more common than spring worms and wingworms and other worm-bean conditions. So from that point of view, and it is correct name. Now, next, number 10. In summer season, qi and yin injury are the common reality, no matter there's summer heat worm suffering or not. It is true. And if you no matter you're doing physical work or not doing physical work, when you're walking under the sun in summer, and occasionally with the shade, you can protect you from burning from sun ray, you're very easy feel tired and also thirsty. So even you have not suffering summer heat worms yet, that's typical qi and yin deficiency presentation. Very easy to feel tired, want resting, very often to looking liquid to drink to rehydrate. So there's a common sense about summer season. Now, number 11, both yin and yang damage could be the end of result post a summer heat worms suffering. If statement 10 is correct, this is definitely very easy understanding because qi corresponds to what? To yang. Yin is corresponding to body fluid and yin. So this with summer heat worm suffering, of course, because based on the season, yin and qi is very easy head injury. If you're also suffering summer heat worms, yin and yang very easy resulting damage at the end of stages. So this is correct as well. Thank you. Now, number 12, due to high temperature manifestations, the summer heat worms only occurs when there's a strong anti-pathogenic qi. So the reason they make this statement, it says, if you don't have a strong anti-pathogenic qi, there's no war, no conflict, no battle, there were no high temperatures. When we learn the summer heat worms, there's specific statement says, summer heat worms only occurred when there's weak anti-pathogenic qi. So this because this single term and change the whole meanings. So this is incorrect. That high temperature is due to very strong pathogens of heat. Relevant anti-pathogenic qi can help still result very high temperatures. So the reason they initiated summer heat worms clinical suffering is due to weak pathogenic qi, body not able to protect themselves and have these kind of sufferings occurred. So this is false. Now, number 13, the stomach enjoys cool and moist condition. What we were taught in the first year, stomach, we know they prefer moist environment. We know that one because stomach is a source of what? Body fluid. Does stomach prefer cool or warm? Warm. Cool or warm? Not hot, warm. So this should be warm. And you can imagine the soil. In what kind of environment the soil produce more crops? Is it cold moist or warm moist? So warm moist. So that's why usually if people very keen about TCM regarding to dietary, they never recommended anybody and overindulge in cold or uncooked food, even fruit. Even you indulge in the fruit, if you have existing weak spleen, you're going to result in much more thick tongue coating and poor digestive function. So just to be reasonable, they enjoy warm and moist environment, not cool. And definitely stomach does not like hot. Now, number 14, the spleen likes warm and dry environment. So we know that already because spleen constant what? Damp. So much meshy of the food inside, the constant damp. And yes, number 15. The summer heat easily affects the spleen's functions, while the summer heat damp usually affects stomach's activities. It's reversed. Summer heat very easy to damage stomach's yin. Sorry, very slow. Because summer heat very easy causing what? Dehydration. But the damp heat very easy what? Affect the TT function of the spleen. So this just reverse and then that'll be correct. Make me mental, try and make the fourth statement here. You need thinking something incorrect and make people thinking, oh, crazy. Now, number 16, unconsciousness could happen once the heat position affect the pericardium, no matter wind warms, spring warms, or summer heat warms. Good. So doesn't matter what kind of title of illness they're called. Once the heat positions affect the pericardiums, and it's very easy to present as unconsciousness. Number 17, eliminate the heat position in V level is essential for stopping the heat further progressions in both of the summer heat warms and spring heat and spring warms treatments. In which level? Eliminate heat is very essential, but in which level is very essential? In V level or in Qi level? Because any kind of heat in V level is not dangerous. But once the heat in Qi level, you're going to have an exuberant what? Heat, present as high temperatures. Once you feel chill and fever, nobody says, oh, you have very serious condition. Nobody will take it very seriously. But once a very high temperature, the big fall comes through, you say, oh my God, you have to stop it. Otherwise, they either go to nutritive level or blood level, causing more severe organ damage. So this overall statement is incorrect. You just need to change and one term, Qi levels. Now, number 18. Promote urination is not a proper treatment for summer heat damp warms due to possible yin damage. Watermelon provided or produced in what season? In the summer. So that means a lot of diuretic fruit and vegetables like winter melon also produced in summer. That is very good natural products to promote urinations. No matter you have summer heat warms or summer heat damp warms, some diuretic herbs or food will be always good. So that means this is not correct. Because of this, they become incorrect. Promote urination method should be applied in a very early stage when it's suffering summer heat warms, which is one of the principal treatment, and we discussed last week as well, which is completely different with spring warms. For spring warms, you never ever apply diuretic herbs in a very early stage, which is very easy causing dehydration. But for summer, damp heat warms is different. There's already have what? Have a damp. You have to remove this damp to save the yin. If these kind of damp pathogens still restored in the body, which can consume more and more body yin or body fluid. Okay, everybody's okay so far? Okay, let's keep going. Question 19. The common treatment for the spring warms and the summer heat warms are clearing heat and supply yin. We know this is correct. Is this also correct? And one answers. They're very easy to have heat. Yes, because we're talking about the Wenbing. So high temperature is quite common. And both of these spring warms or spring warms pathogens, some heat warms pathogens, very easy damage the yin. So this is correct. You always need to protect the yin while you clear the heat. Of course, in summer heat, also you need to what? To look after possible qi. So based on this statement, which is the correct one, is a common treatment, these two. Number 20. The difference of the treatment for the spring worms and some heat worms are treating the spring worms cannot apply diuretic as early stage. Treating the summer heat worms have to monitoring the qi. Thank you. This is correct. So partially, this answer something has not covered for the question 19, and this has been covered in the question 18. This very important part about subtle differences. Yeah. Now question 21. 白虎汤 and 平胃散 are useful formulae for treating summer heat worms or summer heat damp worms. Okay, can we see this abbreviation here? SW is spring worms and SHW is summer heat worms. No answers for 21. 白虎汤 is good for everything, yes? For Wenbing treatment when you have excessive heat in the summer or excessive heat related with Wenbing. Any spring worms, wind worms, summer heat worms, 白虎汤 can use for any kind of heat in the qi level, yes? 平胃散 for the summer heat worms, 平胃散 can quite commonly used because what? The major two ingredients in the 平胃散 is what herbs? What herbs or are two herbs? 苍术, 厚朴, is that right? To resolve the damp, qi. So it's one of the formula is only have two ingredients in the 白虎汤, another two in the 平胃散. We learned last week about the summer heat worms or summer heat damp worms. So these two formula is very commonly used for the only use for summer heat worms or summer heat damp worms. They are correct. Number 22. Xiangru is a wonderful herb for resolving exterior syndrome in summer season due to its aromatic and gentle diaphoretic nature. It's true. It's a very simple one. Thank you. 23. 白虎汤 and 白虎加人参汤 are applied for resolving summer heat in qi level. You can see we repeat some very, very simple formula so far. We did not mention any complicated formula. So do not get frustrated. How to remember that complicated formula, the new formula in this subject, don't worry. 24. 香如饮 and 黄年香如饮 are useful formulae to manage summer damp heat in Wi level. Do we need Huang Nian applied in Wei level at all? We don't. So here doesn't matter you can remember exact composition. You just need to check and the formula name correspond to some ingredients maybe can represent it, because Huang Nian never ever used for conditioning the Wei level. So based on this kind of statement, and I also circled Wei, so it's impossible. Xiang Ruyin by itself can use for in Wei level, but when it comes together with another form, these are not used by itself in Wei level. So they can use in Qi level or Wei Qi level simultaneously. 25. The summer damp heat pathogen is harder to resolve than the summer heat clinically. This is very difficult thing to resolve. And I'm not talking about examples, quite annoying. So basically, we know damp is very hard to resolve, like a fungus. Once you have any kind of abnormal, excessive fungi growth in our intestines, that can take ages, years to clean up, never, ever, ever, because fungi cannot exist like a virus. Fungi cannot exist by itself. They need to find a host. And once they find very nice host, they stay with it for the rest of life. So this is like a damp here. Now 26. Bloodletting method is useful to manage high temperature symptoms in summer heat worms. So only used for manage symptoms. That's good one. Number 27. Proper diet control is necessary for resolving summer damp heat worms. Good. Number 28. The qi in spring has quick uprise and contracting in nature. Therefore, the spring worms features with high fever and fast inwards transmission. Qi in the spring has quick uprise and outwards, not contracting. So these ones make everything trouble. Yes, not contracting. Thank you. Number 29. The qi in the summer has reached to its peak. So fever, foggy, or heaviness in the head are the common complaint for the summer heat worms. This is very easy misleading, you know, when you're thinking about in the peak, that means everything goes to top, not necessarily. And a lot of trouble like a gastro can go through and not always represent in the head. So this is not common one and not common explanations or arguing in that sense. Number 30, both yin and yang collapse are the more often from the summer heat attack than the spring heat suffering. So this we already discussed previously. It's overlapped. Now 20, okay, here comes this image. Okay. Complete the last two images and provide brief explanations regarding to qi dynamics within the fall season. So for the, it shifted. Okay, this is, sorry, this is spring. This is summer. Why they can move? And try the complete image for winter and autumn. Very easy, just different directions. Everything will be fine. Any volunteer, just draw that on us. No, we leave that free. We leave this free. Here just tells you 4 season circles here. We're talking about qi dynamics. We don't leave, don't put it with additional seasons here. Okay, autumn, winter, that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this tells you the yang qi starts sprouting out, upwards, outwards, from the central part of your vital gate, from the organs towards to go outside. When the summer comes, all the yang qi has been located attributing surface. That's why you can see color. And in the summer here, central part getting cooler. Yes, do not indulge in too much of cold food in summer because central part is getting cooler, lack of sufficient protections. But in the spring, still can see some enough of a warmth in the middle here. But up to the autumn, and little bit inside restoration start, contractions go through, and this color has been much more what? Much more brighter compared with this one. Yes, but when you go to winter, and all the energy is restored in central part, get much more darker color here. And this is for special restorations in winter, and that is the time you can help for hibernations. This also helps in understanding why in the spring they have incubated pathogens, why in the summer have too much of qi and yin injury, yin and yang collapses, and why in the autumn and winter have other conditions we can learn in this week and the following weeks. So this may help you. It doesn't help you find so annoying, very easy. Click and disappeared. Okay, here's a comparisons and regarding to wind warms, spring warms, summer heat warms, or not warms and summer damp heat warms. Regarding the season, and correspond to the pathogens and clinical manifestations or cautions in the treatment. Okay, just read it through and have a look. If you have anything disagree or anything insufficient, we can make it much more proper for the information here. There's question in aged care, they find patients pass away more so in the winter time. Yes, because all the yang qi goes to restorations into the internally, and they don't have sufficient circulating in the bodies there, which is similar like we heard about how to call that in children if they lie face down, very easy causing they call it a kind of syndrome. Yes, when you lie face down, lie down the body, your heart beating slow down, your breathing getting much more relaxed for children, and also easy causing suffocations because they do not know how to change. Same for adult. When you feel anxious, yes, you can lie down, face down, and you're using your belly to touch to the bed. You can relax yourself. I remember I had a horrible illness many years ago, and before I had all these kind of treatment applied from doctors, the only way I can go to sleep, I have to be face down and to manage my anxiety. Otherwise, I keep panting, puffing, and I never ever could work out why until one day searching on the internet and find out, oh, babies can cause that suffocations and why. And then from all the modern research that tells you when you're facing down, position to sleep, and your heartbeat slow down, which can make the body more relaxed. At the same time, your breathing also getting less shallow in a way, and you get more relaxed. You can control the anxiety attack. But for children, if they're too relaxed and they do not know how to turn their head on both way, and very easy causing suffocations for them. Same for the winter season. When the woman's or man and woman is so relaxed or so have all the yang qi incubate has been restorations internally, they already have very poor blood circulation in general, or many years progressions of coagulations build up in the systems, very easy causing further obstructions. So most of the strokes, heart attack happen in cold season. Same for the nighttime. There's a time for what? For the death coming to knock on the door for us. So about between 11 to 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, this is time, very easy, and have a high death rate in the hospital as well. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing. Okay, any disagreement or any issues for understanding this comparison chart? Or table? Not chart, this is table. Okay, which part do you not follow, Lucy?
I'm looking at it, but I'm not sure. Are we supposed to be reading
the table? Okay. Now, spring worms. Sorry, here is a whole column talking about windworms.
Yeah.
And this whole column talking about spring worms here. This whole column talking about some heat worms or some damp heat worms. And this kind of windbeam, they're all sharing what? Fever as clinical feature, and the heat pathogen can be transmitted to deep levels. Yes.
Yeah.
So okay. Now clean it up. Now let's have a look at the windworms. Windworms happen in what season?
Spring and winter.
Spring and winter. Good. And windworms pathogens is what? Is a wind heat.
Yeah.
We know that. Yeah. Compared with spring worms happen early in the spring, and the pathogen is what? Is incubated heat. So which tells the difference between incubated heat and wind heat.
So we're not.
Summer heat only happen in summer. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Are we supposed to be doing a true and false with this, or are we just looking at the statements? Do you know what?
Yes, you can indicate the true or false on each of the following information field in the spaces with brief explanations. So find is any error or any improper information here.
Okay, thanks.
So this is mainly summer heat worms and summer damp heat worms, pathogens related to summer heat or summer damp heat. Thank you. Okay, any errors for the seasonal pathogens so far? No. Okay, we'll agree with first part. I agree with the common windbeams features about fever as a major issue, the heat is major pathogens. We'll agree. I'll agree for the first part. Yeah, we agree with this one. Oh, sorry. Agree with, why did they make this color? We agree the sharing the features of the fever and also heat is a pathogens. And also we agree the difference regard. I don't know why they keep doing this. Agree with the seasons and the basic pathogen difference between these and three windbeam. Yes. How clinical manifestations? Are they all correct? Windworms have noticeable V levels disorders. Yes, this is correct. And could have adverse transmission to pericardium. Is that right? For windworms, good. So that means correct. And spring worms have incubated heat in chi level straight away, and very easy to have yin, nutritive yin level and body fluid injury. So this is correct, yes. For summer heat worms or summer damp heat worms, exuberant heat with noticeable yin and qi injury could have V level disorder, summer damp heat attack initially, which is correct. Yin and yang collapse could happen at the end of stage result. So that means all the features are correct. Does it make sense? It's comparison because too much information involved. I put in the tables. It's easier for everybody. Now cautions. For windworms, we have to apply gently herbs to vent the heat to superficial level. At the same time, protect the yin. Is that right? Or is that a proper statement for the windworms treatment? Okay, I agree with you. Now for spring worms, no bitter or dilute herb should apply at early stage due to easy to damage body's yin or fluid. So you cannot see noticeable bitter cold herbs applied in early stage for the spring worms. This is also correct. Controlled temperature is essential at the chi level for stopping further transmission of heat to the nutritive blood level for summer heat worms. So that means they're all correct. So basically, I did my homework or help everybody did the homework to compare this kind of a three windbeam. Is there an additional pattern for spring worms of a strong external pathogen? And there's no strong external pathogen for spring worms. You could have a newly external pathogen to trigger the spring worms, yes. And that one usually still will leading to what? Leading to exuberant heat in the Qi levels, and still related with incubated heat. Because if there's no incubated heat, only caused by external pathogens, we call that windworms. Thank you. It's very good. We can discuss this together in the group. Thank you. Now we are okay with this table. Okay, thank you. Now we discuss this tongue. We know it's typical liver, sorry, the previous one is typical liver yin, liver blood deficiency with this dented, huge on the side of the tongue. We learned that last week. Have a look. Another one still have a dented, very, very big dented side of the tongue, but this tongue has much more white, greasy tongue coating, and also very, very big dent at the frontal middle part here. So a lot of lung yin deficiency and weak spleen sheath involved. That's why it corresponds with tongue coating so poorly. So if we are going to practice telehealth in the future, tongue differential diagnosis could be very interesting for us to explore further. Now, what's the difference between this tongue with compared with previous tongue? This is relatively thicker. Good color difference. This is a much more relatively pink red. This is more purple red. And this is much more thicker. And this is more what? More flat, more thin at the front part. And this is more pointing at the tip. And this one couldn't see much because I did not catch it very good at the beginning. And this one had much more longer tongue in a way, shows that's why it's more flat. A lot of red dots still shows on the tongue tip here. So this all shows more emotional tongue as a purple pointing and the dots at the front, very, very thin, a bit more red at the tip here. And the lung spleen so weak here. But for this one, had much more deficiency of the blood and some level gray dry tongue coating indicated some level of damp heat involved. And this is more cold involved, damp cold involved for this one. This is more yin. This personality is much more unhappier, more depressed, more sadness involved. This is relative, much more easier one, much more younger age related tongue as well. Okay, that's all for today's revision, for last week's revision. Let's have a look what we need to learn for today. Okay, any questions so far? Or is that too fast? Thank you. Now let's have a look today's. Week 7 or today, we need to discuss the damp worms. Damp worm is the most challenged topic in the well-being, which relate with a lot of modern conditions due to more comforting lifestyles, more sufficient food and sugar-rich dishes, and more excessive heavy food intaking daily. And have a look at this one. So damp worms usually relate with a later summer or early autumn, which is often have pre-exist dampness. So either with weak spleens qi or dampness already located internally. And if you have warming constitutions, very easy have a young pathogens involved. And if you have damp constitution, more yin types, much easier have a yin pathogens involved. So it depends, and percentage of different as well. So if you have much more yang dominant personality, not personality, constitutions, with the damp worms, you have much more heat dominated. But if you have damp constitutions, that means more cold dominated, and regarding damp heat percentage, you have much more damp dominated pathogen represented for clinical manifestations. So damp worms itself is relevant to the complex conditions. So they have both damp yin pathogen related conditions and heat yang related clinical manifestations, and which depends on ratios of damp and heat, and clinically can represent different levels as well in different clinical symptoms. Due to the damp is yin in nature, which do not have very strong or good mobility, most of damp worms and suffering happens very, very slow. So they have very slow onset and very, very slow resolving and very, very slow to progress. Usually, complex symptoms will correlate with complex formulas applied clinically. And here mentioned it starts very deeply because the damp relate with middle gel, so they can go straight away in some level. And most often to affect the chi level is not due to exuberant heat, due to existing damp inside the bodies. So they very strongly stick to the middle earth disorder related conditions such as spleen and stomach disorder. And these conditions can be long terms. And once it's long term, very easy to injure the qi or yang. And then the damp cold can turn to damp dryness. Like I mentioned yesterday in the other subject says, I have damp cold conditions when I drinking spirit or alcohol. I can feel very dehydrated. I have very bad cracks on my lips. So from damp cold become damp heat dominated by drinking alcohol. And damp worms overview here, talking about the yang qi of the middle burner. If it's very strong, you can have much more stomach heat, have much better good appetite when you're suffering damp worms. So the heat passage will be more dominated. And if the yang qi of middle jiao is weak, so you have poor constitution of spleen's yang qi, you can have much more damp, more dominated compared to the heat when you're suffering damp worms. Suffering in Wenbing as well. So this is obviously common sense. Here is a very nice comparison between more heat and more damp happening in the damp worms condition suffering. So the heat dominated, we know temperatures will be much more noticeable and high. If damp more dominated, and the temperature is not as high and more easily present in the late afternoon, and long-lasting or contained temperatures. And same and following, if the heat dominated, you have restlessness, distension, pain, and sore, more dominant complaint on the bodies, distension, epigastric regions aching or pain, loose to have very strong, very unpleasant odor, concentrated urinations, maybe bitter taste inside the mouth due to the heat regurgitated from stomachs or gallbladder, and very noticeable thirsty, dehydrated tongue or redness, and yellow, thick, greasy tongue coating, and slippery, rapid pulses. But if you have dampness dominated, if you're heavy instead of restlessness, if you're heavy, if you're tired, so lethargy comes through, and the stiffness heavy in the bodies, and instead of aching pain, if you're more distension, more bloated in the digestion tracts. You may still have loose stool, but instead of strong odor, this time you feel more watery stool, splashes out. Urines become more turbid or more frequent, and more clear urinations could also happening as well. Not much of thirsty will come if the damp is dominated. Instead, you can feel lots of salivas in your tongue, maybe lots of bubbles shows on top of tongue coat, and greasy, slippery tongue coating, much more thick tongue coating comes out. And some people's thick tongue coating looks like they can use a brush to make very nice patterns. Pearls are more soggy, slippery. So there's a difference. One is more dominant with the heat, one is more dominant with the damp, but both of these patterns have combined the both and damp heat. So that's why, based from the temperatures, body's behavior, and the location of the body suffering, and the urination and bowel movements, as well as the tongue presentation, the pulse features, doing the comparison. It's very nice comparison between these two different ratios regarding to damp worms. Now, damp worms compared with summer heat combined with the damp, they all have a damp, all have a heat. Only difference is the seasons. Damp heat worms have to happen in the summer, but the damp worms happen in very, very late summer or early autumn, so nearly the transition seasons between summer and autumn. So that's a different one. Had much more water falls in a way, could result in and damp heat both passages affected. So there's common clinical presentation. They're all sharing the heat and dampness complaint, such as fever, aversion to cold in early stage, or headaches, and the distension in the chest or epigastric regions. Lung systems, wheel level, and all the digestion system can be correlated for both of these kind of wind-beam damp warms and the summer damp heat warms. The different things is, for the summer damp heat warms, the temperature is noticeable high, and they may have some bleeding, comes on the nose, comes into the gums, comes possible from the pus, and they still have a thirsty, still have some restlessness complaining, and if the more severe, they may have muddled, not very clear conscious level, but pulse is very, very strong, flooding and rapid. But for the damp warms, it's different, because the dampness is relatively much more strong compared with summer damp heat in damp warms there. So they have much more contained fever. So temperature is not very, very high compared with summer damp heat. And this is more heavy sensation, more poor digestion, sticky, heaviness involved, and tightness related concern. So lassitude, white, greasy tongue coating, soggy and moderate pulse will be presented. So relatively, here is more heat and fire in comparison, and the other one is more damp. Oh, this writing is so bad. And here's more damp. Go this one, it's easier. Here's more damp, here is a more summer heat or summer fire. So that's the difference between these two. Now there's a question here. Does contained fever, less fever, contained fever not very high in temperature and last a bit longer? Thank you. So they do not present in the clinic more noticeable. Maybe you can feel, people feel uncomfortable when you measure temperature is not very, very high, maybe 38 or something. But for the high temperatures, 39 could accompany, could present it as well as maybe all day around. For contained fever, the temperature is not very, very high, looks like covered up or covered up by the damp, or only comes in the very late afternoon when the young chi is struggling with the damp that comes out. Finally. Now, progression of the damp warms. So slow progressions, long course. So once they come, they slowly to penetrate in, and they do not go quickly like nowadays COVID-19. So annoying. They love you, they kiss you, they want to stay with you, they never go away. Same like this kind of damp. So first here talking about if the damp heat can turn into the dry heat, very easy injury the yin. And damp heat can turn to the damp cold if you have very bad yang deficiency. So it depends on your constitution. If the constitutionally have very, very severe yin injury and a lot of hyperactive heat, damp heat can result in very, very bad dehydration. If the constitution have very poor yang qi, damp heat eventually can turn to the damp cold if they're lingering around with you, causing severe and damage for the spleen functions. Now, early stage of the damp warms, mild exterior signs, because they have very slow progressions, so very easy to have some wheel level discomfort, and very mild fevers or contained fever, lassitude, feel distension or congestion on the chest and the digestion tracts with poor appetite. Most affect chi level in the spleen and the stomach. So once the passing through the initial stage, or they can go through initial stage simultaneously with the middle jaw discomfort at the same time. Depends how bad the digestion functions and is before the attacking this kind of damp warms suffering. Progressions of the damp warms, like all the other wind beings. This one just a bit slower. So damp heat focusing on the Middle Earth, goes through the earth. You can imagine soil has been soaked with a lot of water. When the heat comes through, they just make it much, much more funny. A lot of weed were growing on top of that. Very, very hard to cleansing this kind of weed if you want to grow some crops. Same for this one. So if in the early stage, they're going to show some very bubble-like skin rashes comes out of transparent. Usually you don't have very strong antipathic qi. That's why you cannot get sufficient sweating. They show a bubble-like skin rashes and surface. And if they're causing unconsciousness, the veiled pericardium, shen will be blocked, become very, very good, bad delirious speech comes out and couldn't focus on mentally properly. If they shows very bad maculas, that means heat is dominated. They shows bleedings and capillaries bursted, shows underneath the skin's bleeding, big patches and bruises shows out. That's more severe conditions. That's why here shows red. If they affect to the liver gallbladder, blockage, the bile can lead into jaundice comes through. This could relate to conditions such as the hepatitis condition sufferings. But in general, if they affect to the lower GI bladder, some can represent it as a UTI suffering conditions. If the affected intestines can show like dysentery or diarrhea related. If it related genital organs, some sexual transmitted disease, and these can be a bit annoying. They need to go to specialists as well. So these kind of transmissions, very, very slow. It really depends heat dominated or damp dominated. If damp dominated, they can stay in the middle gel for quite a long time. If heat dominated, and they run much more faster and very easy affect to fire element. If damp dominated, very easy to affect the lower gel organs as well. Separating the damp from the heat is one of the principles of treatment. So separately resolving the heat and the dampness pathogens is very important to help clean out the overall suffering for the damp worms. So if one only clears the heat, damp will not retreat, or only dispels dampness, the heat will blaze bright. So simultaneously clear the heat and eliminate the dampness. So treating both of this damp heat at the same time is very essential. Now we know triple burner is very good pathway for water metabolism, also very good places to transform or to circulate the qi to perform proper qi dynamics. Based on different regions of burner here, talking about upper burner, middle burner, and the lower burner, that's a measure of what? And after the 4 levels is a Sanjiao differential diagnosis. So for damp worms, in Wenbin, we utilize Sanjiao differential diagnosis. Here, that's why I introduced Sanjiao here. So upper gel, middle gel, and lower gel. So if the conditions in the upper gel, so more lung systems in the upper part of bodies, surface to transform the damp by disseminating and directing lung qi downwards, so using Xing Ren and Jie as an example. If the damp heat trouble the middle burner, using warming spleen and the stomachs, promote transportation, transformation functions to ascending, descending, and ascending spleen's qi, descending stomach's qi, such as 后铺、栀子、陈皮、佩兰、白豆蔻, etc. aromatic to regulate the qi, transform the damp. If this kind of damp heat in the lower gel, and we're leaching out the blend by applying the blend herbs such as 花石、猪苓、茯苓、薏仁, and diuretic to help clear the damp heat through the urinations. So this common sense, we know that from diagnosis study, from herbal studies already. So contraindication, due to damp worms, is already have a damp with warm together. Heat is very easy to damage the yin. Damp is very easy consuming normal body fluid. So usually you do not using very strong diaphoretic therapy to apply for the damp worms condition suffering. Same for the damp heat. If in the middle burner already damaged the spleen's yang qi, affected stomach's yin. So using purgative formula is not a very common practice. Very easy injury the yang qi and damage the yin. And as a damp is already cloying and very easy causing obstruction of qi, and very heavy and sticky, nourishing yin herbs is not popular use. So contraindicating diaphoretic, purgative, and heavy yin tonified ingredients for damp worms treatment. Damp worms is very practical concept in the modern practice for people living in modern life, because a damp worms is very, very common conditions if we enjoy heavy drinking of alcohol, enjoys eating too much of sweet food, enjoy to be cooked potatoes, enjoy eating heavy and savory and very, very nice, delicious dishes, and overindulgence through the parties or daily life. Now, first, let's have a look at pattern of attacking on protective level by dampness regarding to damp worms. So basically, you can see this is what is a Taiyang conditions or we level condition, aversion to cold, chills, absence of sweating. So this tells typical what? Wind cold conditions, because we cannot use diaphoretic. With additional greasy tongue coating, soggy pulses, we know this combined with internal cold as well as external damp cold. This also have headaches, heavy painful in the body and the joints. And recommended here using 薛氏新家解表方. So this is a complete new formula. We got no idea what it is. Any learned formula in the past we can apply, or learned ingredients or herbs we can apply for this if we don't use this formula. Any formulas in our head at all, any herbs we can apply for these conditions? Any of you still remember 藿香正气散? You can use 藿香正气散, yes. So 藿香正气散. Okay, 藿香正气散, it's good formula we can use in that. Good, thank you. And that is early formula we learned in the past. And 香如饮 we learned from the last week also could possibly apply as well by itself. So basically we need to resolve the damp with aromatic herbs and help, you know, to release it through, vent it out through surface. Also need aromatic herbs to transform and supporting proper TT function middle burner as well. Let's have a look. What's the ingredients for this beautiful new formula? So they still have a 藿香. They still use a 藿香 combined with 香如. So this is very good herbal pair used in for damp worms conditions resolving. Additionally, have 薄荷、羌货、苍耳子, sorry, 苍竹皮, not 苍耳子, and 牛蒡子. So only 牛蒡子 is a stronger one, and they can manage the heat regarding to possible nature. All the rest are dispersing, aromatic, transforming. So very gentle one for the first formula. Second formula have diuretic inside, beside of 藿香叶 have a diuretic. 华石、通草, etc. If you're living in Queensland, and damp worms will be very common clinical practice in your practice. If you're living in Melbourne, it's not very common to have a damp heat as heat dominated. We only have damp heat, have damp dominated. So some different modifications, you can make it up to help you for the future practice. So most important here, using 藿香香如, very gently resolve damp cold from surface using aromatic 苍柱, and they help resolving the damp from middle jiao. So if you remember, 平胃散、苍柱、厚朴 will be good herbal pair. Yes, thank you, Rui Zhang, yes. And they are not from the weather by itself, but from topical one in wee level conditions is from the damp. That damp from the weather changes, from internal dampness, and could relate it from dietary and the lifestyles. Thank you, that's correct, yes. But in the humid environment, like Queensland or the Southeast Asian countries. And due to very humid, damp heat outside, we usually inclined to eat more cold and damp food. So much more common have a damp warmth happening as well with additional mosquito to give us very nice, beautiful virus at the same times. There's another question. Is 藿香 mostly 叶? 藿香 is yes. You're using leaf, yes. Does the pharmacy just sell the 叶? Ask the pharmacist. I can't answer that questions. 藿香正气 pills or liquid is very, very useful formula when you're traveling to the hot, humid environment. So Vietnam, Singapore, and Queensland, and Indonesia, Malaysia, you can use this kind of herbs as a kind of very good to protect you from possible food poisoning, travel sickness, and serious drunkenness suffering after drinking alcohol, as well as the damp, warm sufferings. Next pattern is a dampness and hindering the qi mechanics of the Wei and qi level. So that means dampness affects qi and Wei level simultaneously. So there's questions. Why the second formula says 藿香叶? Okay, 藿香, once you collect it, depends the quality of the 藿香. Some of people collecting leaf, that's good one. Some people using the whole part of the stem together with leaf and flowers. So it depends the quality of the herbs. Here, emphasize using leaf. That's all. Yes. 警戒 and 警戒穗. Ideally, good quality is 警戒穗, but some people does collecting part of the leaf together while they're collecting the sui flowers. Leaf is better in a way for medicinal purpose here. For the 藿香 is leaf, yeah. For 警戒 is better using 警戒穗 flowers. But can we buy them separately in Melbourne? You can ask herbalists if they provide very good herbal resources. You should be able to buy the same. Leaves have much more aromatic flavors for the 藿香. And the seed flowers still have very nice flower, but once they start to blossom flower for the 藿香, the leaf has already started getting dried down. They don't have enough oils remaining there. But for the 警戒 is different. We harvest the flowers. So when they harvest flower, the leaves get more dry. Now these patterns involve both Wei level and Qi level. So they're using 后下灵汤. So they something still aromatic involved, as well as 三仁汤. This is kind of common concerns for most of the damp heat-related conditions clinically. And chills, content fevers in the afternoon, heaviness is main concern, and no motivations for eating, no motivations for any kind of physical activity, feel congestion on the chest and distend on the abdomen. Very wide, greasy tongue coating, and soggy, moderated, and sluggish pulses. So 三仁汤, 藿香下灵汤 is a kind of common one to help deal with this kind of damp heat simultaneously. 三仁汤 is already mentioned many times from your internal med study, I believe. So 杏仁 deal with upper jiao, 白豆蔻 deal with middle jiao, and 薏仁 deal with lower jiao. So this kernel and represent the name of 3 kernel decoctions. So 3 kernel decoctions with additional 半夏后朴 to resolve the damp, descending the qi downwards. 通草淡竹叶滑石 diuretics and to eliminate damp from urinations. And with 藿朴下灵汤, here have 藿香 again and 藿朴, sorry, and also 半夏. So 藿香朴后朴下半夏灵茯苓. Here using 赤茯苓. 赤茯苓is good to clear the damp heat, especially for skin rashes. Very good one. And we still have additional 杏仁、薏苡仁 and 白豆蔻. So you can see they have lots of similarities between these two formulas. They still have 3 kernels and with much more aromatic dominated and focus on middle gel. Still have a diuretic as well with 泽泻茯苓淡豆豉 diuretic. So this formula is stronger in their actions and it's more gentler in their actions. They have lots of similarities. Can resolve damp heat, involve both weight and qi level simultaneously. Charlie, your brain is very scattered. Too much of questions. It's wonderful, but I don't think we have time to answer all of that. You can use Magnolia box in Melbourne. Quality is not as good as the original one. So that's why it means origin of herbs and contain more atmosphere qi involved. That's why for people, for 3rd generation, 4th generation migrants, they do not have a similar constitutions for people who stayed in the original nations. One is food changed, water changed, atmosphere, nature's change as well. Accumulation of turbid damp in the memory source. So here talking about memories, which we have lots of questions. What means memory source? 木源, that's in Chinese called 木源. Thank you, Alyssa. Botanic strains would be different. Thank you very much. That's more scientific terms, yes. And same for everything else. It's like water qualities, soil qualities in different part of the world is different as well. Even the sun ray each year, water supply each year is different as well. There's a lot of difference, and even radiations received from soil, from the sun is also different. That's why I call it, even you make the wine from same so-called of the botanic names of the grapes, they're going to have different products you make from different regions of the world. So this is just the common knowledge. We should be able to know that as well. Now, what means memory source? Any of you find an answer yet? What means memory source? 木源 have lots of similarities like a sanjiao in some terms, and they do relate with diaphragm and do relate with all the memories structures in the bodies, and which is very, very, very interesting place and to have mingled and hidden and damp pathogens involved. The space between the stomachs and the muscles, and space between the one organs memories with other organs memories. So a lot of overlap with the modern concept of the fascia, 三角. Now, when is the memory source has been affected? So alternating chills and fever. So it looks like 少阳 disorders, yes. With chest and abdominal distensions, poor appetite. So typical what? What conditions? If you learned 伤寒论, typical 少阳 disorder. Instead of damp cold, instead of cold, this is typical damp heat trapped in the 少阳cause of disorder. So we're using disperse and dispel turbid damp from the memory sources treatment method and utilize 达元饮 or 雷氏宣豆木原方, 宣透木原方. So this is very, very famous in some stages. Have a look at the whole formula. You're still using 藿香 again. And also have a 半夏生姜厚朴. So 半夏厚朴 is from what formula? From 半夏厚朴汤, yes. 生姜槟榔, NG. 槟榔 and 草果 黄芩. So you have 黄芩, very important for 少阳 heat release, and 甘草. So very strong herbs, 槟榔, 草果 involved, and to resolve the damp and also regulate the qi with 半夏厚朴 also resolve the damp, descending rebellious qi downwards and resolve flame, 藿香 to vent the heat or damp to the outer layers, 生姜 supporting 半夏 descending the qi. So they have 半夏厚朴汤's idea, have 二陈汤's idea, and utilize 黄芩 to clear the 少阳 heat. 带上雷氏宣透木原方。Second, 达原饮 have something similar, still have a 槟榔, still have 后铺, and or still have 黄芩, clear the 少阳 heat. The different things, this one using 知木 with 白芍 to supply the yin. So that means heat is more dominant, it already show yin deficiency, with additional aromatic 草果 supporting 后铺 to resolve the dampness. 黄芩to control the heat. And this formula tastes horrible. Anyway, so 温胆汤 is the next formula to use to deal with the damp heat related to middle burner as well as triple burner, or middle gel or triple burner. I don't know why they're using these three terms together, but basically you have lots of dampness in middle burner, middle gel digestion at the same time affect all the qi dynamics in the sand gel itself. So 温胆汤 is a very good formula. So we just modified 二陈汤. Alternating chills, fever still comes here. They have more additional dizziness, chest distension, and concentrated urinations, more excessive heat in the bodies. At the same time, have a middle burner, epigastric abdominal distension, nausea, vomiting, and yellow urinations, and very soggy pre-processing. Now, if they relate with specific illness, such as hepatitis, you have to add some specific ingredients to manage specific enzyme lifted after the liver's inflammations. If they're related with some specific gallbladder infections, or digestive infections, you can add specific ingredients accordingly. Here, just talking about general terms about TCM, damp heat in the middle or affect the qi dynamics in the triple burner. So you need to clear the damp heat, improve qi dynamics, and also help restore the spleen's qi ascending, stomach qi descending. So they can perform by 竹乳 clear the damp heat, 半夏 restore the rebellious qi goes up and also resolve the damp, 只是 regulate the qi, 大枣 they help supporting the spleen, 陈皮 supporting 半夏 resolve the damp, 茯苓 was supporting 半夏 and 陈皮 together, there's represent as 二陈汤. So 炙甘草汤 炙甘草 supporting 茯苓, strengthen the spleen, 生姜 supporting 大枣 to supporting the spleen's warmth for the qi ascending. So overall, this damp is dominated by this one, controlled by 二陈汤, and heat managed by 竹乳 and 子时. So 子时, 竹乳 are specifically help deal with heat components in these cases here. So if you compare the 温胆汤 with previous two formula, and this is much more easier for the taste, much more easy for understanding as a kind of common formula. But the previous two formula deal with something much more tricky, difficult to resolve in the memories part of the bodies. Next is the damp heat in the middle burner, talking specifically affect the qi dynamics. A lot of nausea, vomitings involved, and this can be very, very bad for children if they're suffering this one. A lot of thirsty could happening, but they have no desire to drink. They feel thirsty, so dehydrated, but have no desire to drink because all the rebellious qi goes up. And very distension, discomfort in the abdomen. They're also suffering loose stool, and at the same time, very turbid urination. So whole body shows all lots of dampness. Tongue shows very poor white greasy coating, very soggy pulses. Now, because the damp is so dominated, we have to dry the damp and transform the damp, directing the rebellious stomach qi downwards. So either using 雷氏芳香化燥方 or using 三甲健真气散. I can't even pronounce it without a Chinese character. It's just not very common one. But most important here, we have to remember 藿香 again. 藿香 again. And together, both formulas have 厚朴 here. And this is very common herbal pair used for damp warm suffering in general for TCM practice. And first formula with additional 半夏、大夫皮、陈皮、佩兰叶、荷叶. You can see this basically looks like modified of what? Modified 二层汤 in some level. But the second formula is still have a 茯苓, still have a 陈皮 because they don't have a 半夏, so I cannot say it's modified 二层汤. They have a 厚朴, have a 茯苓, so some way similar like 半夏厚朴汤. A little bit. They have quite a common similar clinical actions to resolve the dampness dominant conditions at the same time to dealing with possible congestion and heat. So one is stronger with 华是 second formula to use more heat through urination. First formula more gentler using 荷叶佩兰 and resolve damp in the middle burner, also to waking the spleens qi. 大腹皮 more deal with qi stagnations here, bloated stomachs for 大腹皮. Next is 茯苓皮 tongue related condition. This is more damp in the bladder, affected difficult urinations. So this is more difficult struggling urinations. People represent with nausea, vomiting. So when the qi of the bladder is not able to perform their functions, have very poor qi transformations, so there's no more descending qi downwards, so qis become rising up, causing nausea, vomiting. So this water qi rebels upwards related. Usually they have difficult urinations or puffiness on the legs or bodies, and you can use this formula. This very gentle one, mimic a lot of diet therapies idea. 茯苓皮、薏苡仁、竹苓、大腹皮 and 通草、淡竹叶. So a lot of diuretic ingredients added in, very bland flavor, very, very good taste of herbs. Have you seen good result with these formulas? Damp heat being difficult to treat. You can see this every day in the clinic. Damp heat is very hard to treat. When people try to show your tongue, you smell something from their mouth, and also their tongue shows either white greasy or very yellow greasy. It's very, very hard to resolve. You can see that every day in the practice. But this is very good dietary advice. You can utilize this formula, based on the idea of this formula, utilize similar idea, introduce a lot of diuretic food, recommend for them to eat weekly. It's a very good idea. At the same time, recommend gentle physical activity, and especially outdoor activity, not indoor, turn on air con. That is not proper one. You have sufficient sunbathing or sufficient sun love, sufficient physical activities. Outdoor physical activity can get rid of accumulated damp from insufficient physical activity. The last one for this part is the formula talking about 宣清岛竹汤. This is talking about dampness, obstruction in the intestines, causing a very bad diarrhea or very bad dysentery related conditions, resulting in distension, fullness in the abdomen. They may have pain, may have not pain, but nausea, vomiting could correlate it. So this could relate to food poisoning and after eating contaminated dishes. But if you can do either self-related fasting, sometimes you may do not require any formula at all. They can resolve by itself, just drinking water. But if the conditions are long-lasting for quite a while, they require some herbs to help to look after them to resolve these conditions. So 猪苓 蚕沙 is what? It's a poo of the silkworm. And 寒水石 茯苓皂角刺. This is very effective formula resolve this kind of horrible damp trapped in the systems, especially 皂角刺. And if you're familiar with these kind of herbs, last term when we discussed in the clinical sessions online, Zhaojiaozi have to use together with what? With the dates to minimize the toxicity. Zhaojiaozi is very effective, remove that skunk, very dirty, sticky, damp flame accumulating in the system. Does not want to go away. So these very good ingredients you can apply. And that's all for this hour. We are going to have a break and come back. And let's have a look what time it is now. Come back after 50 minutes, so 50. So 9:50 we'll come back. Thank you very much. Now, how do we differentiate between turbid damp, damp toxic? Damp toxic have abnormal swollen and high temperature locally and pain. Turbid damp, the eye affect orifice, causing difficult urinations, or you can see turbid urinations, or very turbid and long greasy tongue coating. And flame is flame, either abnormal growth like tumors or cysts. And if it's productive, you can see noticeable flame. Damp toxic is much more severe conditions, have localized swollen and redness. Turbid damp is no localized swollen. There are only few murky, funny headaches and very, very discomfort. And flame is more condensed and damp. I hope this answers your question, Charlie. Okay, see you in Any of you still have a question about assignment?